Hi, I'm Kate Tompkins. I'm a therapist in Nova Scotia. This is video 3 of a 3-part series called Breaking Free from Abusive Relationships. And if you watched the first video, you'll know that I opened with this question. Is it possible that you are in an abusive relationship? And if you do know that your relationship is abusive, are you wondering maybe, how do I break free from this? How do I get out? I don't know where to start. So this 3-part video series will take you a little ways down the road to breaking free in a safe manner. I'm doing this video right now. This is the tail end of the COVID-19 isolation. And in the last month in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, there have been several domestic murders where an abuser has killed his partner. And it was domestic abuse that began the horrible shooting rampage a few weeks ago in which 22 people were killed. So I'm shooting this video series in the hope that it will help even just one person who needs to break free from an abusive relationship. I want to say thank you to those people who commented on the first video and those who got in touch with me more privately and more directly to give me feedback as to what they wanted to see in this video. Now, this video series will not be up forever. It's only actually going to be up for a few days, and then I'm going to focus on another project. So if this content information is of interest to you, don't let it pass you by, for sure. In the first video, we talked about the type of transformation that can occur under certain circumstances and some kinds of relationships using a technique called setting boundaries. And we looked at some of the skills that any woman in an abusive relationship needs to learn in order to stay safe. In this video, I would like to focus on some of the issues or challenges or barriers that often women face when they're thinking about how to transform or how to leave their abusive relationship. Now, the first issue I want to focus on is I'm afraid. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know how I'm going to support myself or my children financially. I get that. That's a pretty common concern. So the first thing I want to say is you can do this. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not a total screw up, and you can transform your life. You can create a wonderful, new, safe life. And one of the best places to start is a women's shelter or a women's advocacy organization. Now, one of the things that one of the women who commented on the video, the first video, said to me was, I don't want to go to a shelter. I'm a professional woman, and I don't think I'd be comfortable in a shelter. And I don't want to admit, here I am, a professional. I don't want to admit that I need help. So my question to you would be, how important is it to you to be safe? What are you facing at home, and how important is it to you to get free? And if it is important, maybe you should swallow your pride and check out a shelter, because they are the experts. They are the ones who know how to help you. Many of the women who work in shelters came to shelters in the first place themselves because they were in abusive relationships. So they're not going to judge you. They're going to support you and help you. Now, most shelters come complete with second stage housing, which means it's an apartment or a house. After you use emergency shelter in the beginning, in the first few nights that you're in the shelter. And then once things stabilize for you, you've got your feet back under you, you will probably be offered second stage housing, which is, generally speaking, a furnished apartment or house where you can spend some time to get your life back together, to get your job or your career back together, to get your finances back together, to get your moxie back together. And then when you're ready to leave second stage housing, some organizations also provide financial assistance and other kinds of assistance to set up in your new place. Setting aside some money is important before you decide to leave your relationship. In the very beginning, you'll need enough for a taxi, possibly a couple of nights hotel rooms, maybe enough to replace toothbrush or clothing if you were not able to pack everything that you wanted to when you left. A good rule of thumb is about 10% of your paycheck should go towards savings. But in your case, you may want to set aside more so that you've got a bit of a cushion to fall back on when you need it. You might also have to get control of your own finances. If your abuser has managed to isolate you from your money, from your bank accounts, from your sources of income. You'll need to look after that in whatever way you can. You might start off at your bank, or maybe a different bank than your abuser uses, a bank that your abuser wouldn't think of. Open your own bank account, set aside some cash. If you start feeling a little discouraged, think, it's not so much that I'm leaving an abusive relationship, it's that I'm creating a new, wonderful, brand new, safe life for myself that can be great. And that vision of the new life that you can have can be a beacon of hope for you and to help you keep your moxie and your energy up. Now, the second issue I often hear is, I don't have the energy, I'm heartsick, I've lost my will, I've lost my self-confidence, I'm too weak, I can't do it. So in answer to that, I would say, yeah, I felt that way too. So enlisting the help, particularly of women friends, is a wonderful place to start. Our women friends can provide us with a great deal of energy and support. Next place to go is, you know what I'm going to say, your shelter. Even if your choice is not to stay in a shelter, they can provide you with all kinds of information and support. So do check them out, and do check out any women's advocacy programs in your community as well. Now, it's entirely possible, if you've been in an abusive relationship for any length of time, and if you're feeling like, oh, I've lost my energy, it's entirely possible you are depressed. It's a very common ailment, and it's particularly common for women who are stuck in abusive relationships because of what we have to deal with on a daily basis to try to survive. It can make a person feel robbed of hope, robbed of energy, and heartsick. So if you think that's you, it might be a good idea to go visit a counselor, a therapist. We all know how to treat depression. It's our bread and butter, and depression is as common as dandelions in any field. So don't feel ashamed about being depressed. It's very treatable, and it's a good idea to receive treatment for depression before making any big changes in your relationship, like a big move, so that you're at the top of your game and not more vulnerable to your partner than you really need to be. Next thing you need to do is to make a safety plan. Now, there are lots of elements that could go into a safety plan. Every woman's situation is different, so you're going to need to, each woman is going to have to make a different safety plan. Here's some of the things you might want to think about. Scope out your neighbors, find out who's going to be supportive, and maybe work out some sort of an emergency signal with a supportive neighbor. So maybe a code word or phrase. So if you phone your neighbor and use your code word, Niagara Falls, to your abuser, it might sound like an ordinary, innocuous conversation, but your neighbor will know what that means is, please call the police for me right now. Teach your children what to do if abuse begins around them, to go to a safe place in the house or to go to that safe neighbor's home. You need to arrange ahead of time, of course, for your neighbor to take your children in. I strongly suggest calling the RCMP to make them aware of what's going on in your relationship. If they know who you are, know what's going on, see your face, if you call them in a panic, you're a lot more likely to get appropriate and speedy response from them. You need to gather together the phone numbers that you might need in a hurry, such as a taxi, the police, the women's shelter. I knew a woman one time who took a lipstick tube, took out the innards and threw them away, just used the case and rolled up a little piece of paper inside with the phone numbers that she needed. It just looked like a tube of lipstick sticking in the bottom of her purse. Discreet, but she had the numbers available there that she needed. Think about asking the RCMP to help you remove weapons from the house if that's a concern. Think about erasing the last call from your phone so that your abuser can't, do a redial and find out what you're up to or where you're going. You might want to consider, by the way, having a spare cell phone available, hidden somewhere, that your abuser doesn't know about. Keep a battery for it. You'll need a grab bag hidden someplace that you can quickly pick it up and go in a hurry. And in that grab bag should be everything you can think of that you might need in an emergency. Spare clothing, spare medications, toys for your children, important documents like passport, bank cards, health cards, credit cards, your cash that you've put aside. You might want other important documents such as copies of restraining orders or peace bonds, a photo of your abuser to help the police, a photo of your children just in case you get separated from your children. You want a couple of changes of clothing, cosmetics, toothpaste, things like that. If you're planning to take a pet with you, make sure you've got a leash packed and maybe a little baggie full of pet food. Have spare keys, all the keys you might need, car keys, house keys, office keys, anything like that. And put your spare cell phone in your grab bag. And anything that's particularly of personal value to you. We're not going to pack furniture, of course, but anything small and light and easy to carry, like a sentimental photograph or a couple of pieces of jewelry, anything that you might need for an extended period, and think, I'm never coming back, because it's probable that you're never coming back. So think in terms of all those things that you're going to need in a hurry, and stick them in your grab bag and hide your grab bag someplace where you can get it, but your abuser won't find it. And finally, don't announce to your abuser that you're going. Don't tell him, I'm leaving tonight. Just do it. Do it quickly. Do it quietly. And have help to do it. Once you're ready to leave, it's really a good idea to have help. If you can, get the RCMP to come and escort you out to look after you. Maybe someone from the shelter might give that service, but as I've said before, the RCMP is your safest bet. Or your local police detachment is your safest bet. Now, something else that can really help your moxie, your sense of confidence, is knowing how to set boundaries properly. Now, we don't have time in this video to go into the art form and the skill of setting boundaries. Or maybe that'll be another video sometime. But the important message is this. When you make a boundary, there has to be two things. There's two elements to it. The first is the particular specific behavior that you don't want to have, and what you intend to do as a result should your partner choose to not honor your boundary and go ahead and do whatever it was you did not want him to do. And those consequences, that's where the art form comes in. There's many things to keep in mind when you create consequences, but the most important one is that the consequences that you set need to be reasonable and feasible, and ones that you can and will follow through on. So for example, if you set a boundary that says, if you hit me again, I will call the police and charge you. 2 weeks from now, he hits you again, you don't call the police. What have you taught him? You have taught him, go ahead and do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. There's no consequences. I'm not going to do anything. So make sure that you pick boundaries and consequences that are reasonable and feasible and that you can follow through on, and then follow through on them. That's the most important part of setting boundaries, is following through. There's a lot more to learn about boundaries that we don't have time for right now. But just let me tell you that learning how to set boundaries properly is a key skill for any woman, but particularly for women who are in abusive relationships. Now, the next concern that I'd like to talk about is shame. I don't know how many times I've heard this, and I felt this myself. I'm so ashamed. I don't want to admit that this is happening in my life. It's particularly so for you professional women, because, I think professional women may be in some ways more at risk than other women, because in a lot of cases we came from protected homes, safe homes, not always, but frequently we did, and didn't know that much about boundaries. We tend to be open, we tend to be friendly, we tend to be trusting. So in a lot of ways, we may be more vulnerable than other women. And when the relationship does not go well, we often feel shame because we think, I should have been able to fix this. I should have been able to understand what was happening. I should have been able to change this. I should have been able to leave. And if we're not able to do those things, we feel tremendous shame. So the first thing I want to say is, your shame is misplaced. Your shame comes from a thought in your head that says something about who you think you're supposed to be, how wonderful you think you're supposed to be, and not necessarily from the current situation. And also think about this. The responsibility for an abusive relationship belongs to the abuser. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the abuser. Your abuser is not out of control. Your abuser is choosing to hurt you. Your abuser is choosing to abuse you. So the responsibility belongs to your abuser, not to you. Therefore, if you cannot change the situation, shame is not it's not an appropriate emotion, because the responsibility was not yours in the first place. And your abuser may actually try to make you feel like you're the guilty one, may make you feel like you're the crazy one, you're the out of control one, you're the unstable one. That is one of the mechanisms that some abusers use to dominate and control their partners. So admitting our shame, admitting what's going on in our relationship and admitting our shame is a very important first place to start. So talk to your women friends. You may be surprised what you hear. Did you know, for example, that according to Statistics Canada, and this is probably very, very similar in the United States and in European countries and other countries as well, at least 1/3 of all women in any workplace have at some time experienced abuse at home. So you're probably in pretty good company. If you think about all the women in your life that you know, all the women you see on the street, all the women in your workplace, if 1/3 of them are in the same boat as you, you've got lots of company. So maybe you don't need to feel ashamed. Maybe you just need to think, what do I need to do to get out of this? Admitting what's going on to someone we trust, to our women friends, to a counselor, to an advocate, is a wonderful place to start. It will give you power. It will open up to you the possibility of support in totally unexpected ways from totally unexpected people. And you can also get online and Google stories. You'll be amazed at the stories that you hear from other women of all walks of life and how they manage to break free. Now, the next concern I often hear is, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to break free. I don't know where to go for help. Well, again, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Check out your local shelter. They are experts in knowing how to help women. A lot of them have been through it themselves, but they know where the supports are, they know where the resources are, they know how to help you, they know what pitfalls to avoid. So that's the first place to start. If you're not sure where the shelter is, or if you're not sure where to go for help, try any helping agency in your region. So by helping agency, I mean places like social services, maybe a mental health outreach program, a women's outreach program, maybe an addictions program. Any kind of helping agency is connected, just like a spider web. They're connected and they know about other helping agencies. So they will know where to send you. They will know who can help you best. Any counselor, any therapist will also be aware of whatever services are available in your area. Check out your local librarian. Librarians are, they know everything. They know where all the bodies are hidden. They know information about all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't even think about, because they're trained in how to find out where stuff is. They're trained in how to find out information. So they'll be a very good source of information if you're not sure where to start. Also check out your RCMP, or your local police detachment if it's not RCMP in your jurisdiction. The RCMP often have at least one person on staff who is trained in how to respond appropriately and supportively in domestic assault circumstances. So they can be a very helpful resource. Another helpful resource would be a female lawyer, your doctor, your nurse, your clinic. Try a crisis information line. Every crisis intervention center I've ever known about has at their fingertips a database of information about local community supports and where you can go for any kind of help. They're also a place that you can call at usually 24/7, any time of day. You can call for supportive, just to chat if you want to, or to get information. They're a good resource also. And another resource you might not think about would be your local municipal office, because municipalities, town councils, band councils usually have a publication, or if they don't have it published, they got the information somewhere about all the community organizations and groups and agency in the community, in the region, in the area. So if you're not sure where to go, they can be a first source of information. Also, elders can be of help as well, too. Some elders can be of help. If you're in an Aboriginal community, you might want to check out an elder that you have a relationship with. They can provide support. They can provide a listening ear. And that kind of support is impossible to replace. Another concern that I've heard is, I'm afraid he'll kill me if I try to leave. I understand that. That's a very, very valid fear. And a woman is most vulnerable to violence and to being killed by her partner at the time that she's trying to leave or shortly after she leaves. It's the most risky time. So please, if you fear your abuser enough to think that he might kill you, please, please, please go to the police and talk to them. Learn how to assess your safety. Learn about the cycle of violence so you can anticipate what might be coming in your relationship. Talk to the local police about what protection orders are available to you in your region and how to access them. They're different in each place, so there's not much point in my telling you, how to get a restraining order because it might be different from one province to a next or one state to a next. But ask your police service, or your shelter is another source of information about legal protection orders, or your lawyer. Find out what's available to you and how you can access it and which type of order would be most appropriate for you in your situation. Ask your police force for help in leaving, to escort you, to come and be there while you pack up and leave to keep you safe. Now, once you're out, you need to take some steps to keep yourself safe. So here's something you can do. Change up your routines. So you don't want your abuser saying, oh, it's 4 o'clock on Thursday. I'll bet she's at her hairdresser's. I'm going to go get her. No, change up your routine. Do things differently. Go to different churches. Take your children to different schools. Alert the principal and the teachers in your school to what's going on in their children's life so that if your abuser turns up at school trying to take the children away, the administration will know to call the police. Make sure that you have access to money in your own name. Open your own bank accounts in your own name. Other services such as utilities, for example, in your own name, an unlisted phone number. And some women have gone to the extent of changing their name, moving to a different part of the country and changing their name. You certainly wouldn't be the first person who did that if you think that might be helpful for you. Well, that's all we've got time for in this video. In the third video, I plan to give you a roadmap that goes right from the very beginning of the process for getting ready to make a change, making your move, how to do it safely. So an overall roadmap of the process of breaking free safely. So I'd like you, if you're willing, to do me a favor to help me put together that third video. Please leave a comment below this video and tell me what kind of support you think would be the most useful to you when you're ready to break free. If you wish to talk to me, or if you wish to have a link to the first video if you missed it, please go to my website at www.cwins, and that's plural, cwinsonlinecounseling.com. www.cwinsonlinecounseling.com, and leave a message for me. It'll be completely confidential. No one else will ever see it. Leave a message for me in the Contact Us section. Tell me how to get back to you, and I will get back to you. If you want to talk to me, that will be at no charge. If you're coming through this free video series, a short chat will be of no charge to you. I'll try to help you in any way I can. So I look forward to speaking with you. And I hope you're looking forward to the third video. It'll be out in a few days. By the way, these videos are not going to stay up forever. They're only going to stay up for a few days, and then I'll be shifting my attention to another project. So please don't miss this series. Please don't miss the third video. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.